I don't know what's the next topic.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Show. So excited to be here. We got a great. It's because where my brain is just racing on so many things.
I
We
get
got some major issues to talk about today. So what are we covering today?
So we are covering today what happened during the BRICS summit, because some of the things happened that we didn't know were going to happen,
Yeah.
and some things that we had expected to happen or had hoped would happen didn't.
Yeah.
And so in two facets: one, de-dollarization for the US dollar, and the other is in the countries that are
That are
going to
joining.
join BRICS and have
Yeah.
officially been invited into BRICS. And the third topic is something that is, I think, maybe one of the hottest topics right now, and that
Yeah.
is Prigozhin's plane went down.
And,
So he is the leader of the Wagner Group, which has
Yeah.
been in the news a lot lately for not just their contributions to what's happened in Ukraine, but also in Africa. It started to actually really heat up in Africa, and Prigozhin's
Yeah.
plane went down.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. We'll start with that first. So, and by the way, guys, if this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe. We truly appreciate your support. And also, I'm going to be reaching out to Scott Ritter, and I'm going to have him back here either on this platform or on Rumble. So I will let you guys know once that decision is made.
And our Rumble, that's the link. Do you want to tell people about our Rumble?
No, you go ahead.
So
Since you're the one managing that, I have no clue about. I don't do that. I'll be honest. If it weren't for Elizabeth, I don't do that.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate
just talk
it.
and analyze stuff, and it's just that's how we are. Some
Yes.
people have strength in this and that, and that's what a team is all about. To me, I'm a believer of that. There is nothing one can do by himself.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes,
no
you
way,
are absolutely
no way,
right.
no way.
And I really appreciate that, David. You guys may not know
it's
this,
it's
but an enormous amount of time, effort, and energy goes into this
Oh,
show.
yeah.
I mean, we've put blood, sweat, and tears into this show.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to grow it, guys, and,
Yep.
and we appreciate your support. And this is why I always say, if this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe, because
Yes.
that's one way of supporting us here. So we're on our own. We don't have, just to let you guys know.
So our Rumble, we're
Yeah.
going live on Rumble every Wednesday right now at noon, same time, because we got tired of not being able to really speak our mind.
Yeah.
And we love it here on YouTube. YouTube has brought us to most of you guys.
Exactly.
And we really, really appreciate that. And at the same time, because you can feel appreciative and frustrated at a situation,
Yeah.
we would like to share more of our real opinions about things. So we can do that on Rumble.
And we might even be moving forward, remember, even to do more than just one episode on Rumble. So till we grow it, that's the whole idea.
Absolutely.
So, all right. And the course, quickly.
Oh,
what
the
are
course.
we on a course?
Yes. So the course, we are going to be announcing which days the course is going to be taught live. David is going to teach it live. I know we're still looking at a picture of Prigozhin, but
oh yeah, where is it?
But David is going to be teaching this government course live, because the reality is, guys, the US government doesn't work the way that people think it does.
Yeah.
And it's surprising, actually, that people really don't have any idea what the US government is doing around the world, really doing, not the kind that's taught in school, but what's really happening. So David is gonna teach that, what's actually happening with the US government. So if you want to know about it, we have a newsletter on geopoliticsinconflict.com, and sign up for the free newsletter, and I will send an email out probably this week about what days those are.
Yeah, make sure to sign up for that newsletter. It's free.
Yeah, totally free.
But you'll get an update info of what's going on. So
cool.
All right, let's get on to this topic here. So we're gonna be talking about the sudden death that is for Prigozhin, which, by the way, it was only a few days ago. The video that made it to the internet, as far as him being in the deserts in Africa. So he flew back to Russia, and just 48 hours after that. So where do we start with something like this? As one who worked in Washington, D.C., there is a lot of, sometimes don't jump to conclusions. I remember when we did the video last time,
Yeah.
and we said, hold on a second, do not jump to this conclusion right away.
Right.
So things might not seem what they appear to be. So I'm not saying they are now working on confirming through DNA he's dead, because as you may know, guys, this is nothing surprising to you. Whatever doubles, it's normal, especially in the world of intelligence. You know, I won't be even surprised, and this is just me thinking outside the box. I won't even be surprised, hypothetically, if it's not confirmed, that he might just go with a different ID. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Identity, facial changes. You know, I was aware of one guy that we've been looking for 25 years.
Wow.
That's 25 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Or the reason why we couldn't pinpoint him is because he went ahead and did a plastic surgery.
Wow.
And changed completely.
Yeah.
There is no way we could have even 25 years.
Yeah.
Till we got him in Damascus.
Wow.
That's where it was, out of all places. And he was walking at night, just taking a walk. I mean, out of all places. That's my point.
Yeah.
And by the way, the guy's name is Ahmed Mugnia. It's a long story that goes with the hijacking of a plane, U.S. Plane at the time. And so Google him up later on if you find. Just my point. Do not jump to conclusions yet. So yes, the plane went down, and as a matter of fact, there is an image of the plane here. I'm going to share it with you guys quickly here, if I find it.
That's okay.
Sometimes I just have so many things racing in my brain, but
well,
no, I have it. I have
okay.
it because I have it on the screen. So I'm going to just share the screen with you guys.
Okay.
Just to see and share. Yeah. Can you guys see it?
Yes, there it
we
is.
Go, right
well,
there.
it's loading.
So that's the plane.
Yeah.
Why are we sharing this with you?
Yeah.
To highlight to you, at least to understand the dynamics of what took place.
Right.
And this based on this morning, just reading, I had to read some stuff about, I have my sources where I look for stuff. So here is what happened. And again, I am not confirming 100% that Brigadier was dead. There were two minor explosions before.
Right.
Before the plane caught in fire in the back, not in the front. And right when that happened in the back, the right side of the plane, the right wing, went down. That's what that image is. Yeah. So questions arose. Is this a missile attack?
Right. And you're absolutely right. That is the fundamental question. Do you want to watch the plane go down? It's rough to watch, guys, but I think it's important to see it. So this is a video. There are actually a couple of these videos out. A couple of people caught this on camera, but this is one of those videos.
Два раза взорвалось, падает. Ты посмотри, падает.
And that's exactly the picture that you showed, David, of it going, it's going face down.
Ты посмотри, падает.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. So this is where I will tell you.
Oh, go ahead.
To remove that.
Yep.
So this is where the idea of just understanding the dynamics. We don't know if it will be a missile. If it were a missile, the question becomes is whose missile was it?
Yep.
Was it a Russian missile? Or was it a foreign missile? If it were a foreign missile, that's bad news for Russia in its entirety. Why? If a missile is able to violate or break through the airspace of Russia, that's bad news, which I don't foresee that.
Yeah.
The third option that is left is, did somebody sabotage the plane? If it was somebody sabotaged the plane, that would be from within. If it is from within, that means against Russia itself. Yep. So that's why it's so hard to say something definitively. So that leaves you with another fourth option. And if is this to be happening inside, who was behind it? Was it because Russia has the same structure we have in the military. I was in the military intelligence in the US. Russia has the same thing, their military intelligence. Was it FSB or was it the missile defense organizations within the military?
Yeah.
Hard to tell at this point. So what is factual, in my opinion, and I speak for myself here, what is factual is that Prigozhin made the mistake back then
with the coup.
He made the
Yeah.
mistake. First of all, signed his own death warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I saying this? Analyzing it, put it under the lenses of the international stage.
Yeah.
It was a big blow to the Russian president.
Yeah.
And right there to me became clear, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. And that actually lends itself towards your theory that he may or may not have actually been on that plane, is because he had to have known. So, there was a big question about whether that coup, whether that was real or whether it wasn't
staged.
Yeah. Right. And we know that there was some money missing, I think, from the CIA budget at the time.
Exactly.
There was a bunch of factors that led to maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But if it had been real, if it was real, Prigozhin had to know the outcome, right? He had to know what Putin would have done if that was the case. And it's interesting because the Wagner Group itself is calling it a murder assassination. So the Wagner Group, so they have a Telegram channel called the Gray Zone. So they are calling it a murder. So they're saying the murder assassination of Prigozhin will have catastrophic consequences. The people who gave the order do not understand the mood in the army and the morale at all. Let this be a lesson to all. You always have to go to the end. And that's from their channel. So technically, the bodies of Prigozhin and his second in command, Dmitry Utkin, have been identified.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me how quickly that's happening, right? So the Russian media is coming out and saying, is actually coming out and saying two things that I think are very interesting. And I want your take on this too, David.
Yeah.
So there was an American, the chair of UK Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Alicia Kearns, said, the speed at which the Russian government has confirmed Prigozhin was on the plane that crashed on a flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg should tell us everything we need to know. So that's an interesting take that I am actually very interested in. But then there are other options that are starting to come out in Russian media saying that it was an explosion on the plane.
It was before the contact. This is what a lot of people might get this confused. They are tactical. What's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes you know when you have a plane like we have it with, for example, Air Force One. Air Force One has some capabilities for it. For example, if let's say hypothetically a missile is aimed at the Air Force One can release certain targets that will the missile will end up hitting that target, not that. So what happened with this plane here, the two explosions, the two small ones, this is based on what I read, the two small ones happened before the third contact, which the third contact where the back of the plane ends up being burnt. Right. That is what I'm referring to.
And the Wagner Group actually agrees with you on this. Yeah. They put on their Gray Zone.
Yeah.
It claimed that Russian anti-aircraft defenses shot down the plane. So that's what they're saying. Wagner is saying Russian anti-aircraft defenses shot down the plane, and it said the residents of the area, because this is a residential area, right? That's how you have all these videos.
Yes. Yeah.
The residents heard two bursts, exactly what you said, David, two bursts of characteristic air defense fire. So it seems like they'd heard this before. This wasn't the first time that they had heard sounds like this before the crash. This is confirmed by inversion traces in the sky in one of the videos. So I think, there's in some of the videos, there's extra smoke.
Yeah.
There's extra smoke from different places that are clearly not from the plane that's spiraling down. And the news, so the same report cited a Western official to say it was anti-aircraft missile that struck the private jet. A Western official said that they had been told the plane had been brought down by a Russian anti-aircraft missile system, but could not confirm whether Prigozhin was on board, adding, Putin doesn't take prisoners. Which I believe. If I'm being honest, I believe that Putin doesn't take prisoners. I believe he doesn't bluff. And I don't know whether he did it or not, but I don't think it would be out of the realm of reality that he would do it.
I see what you mean. Yeah. The idea of challenging. That's why I said last time. It's the idea that Prigozhin mounted, that whether it was staged or not.
Right.
Some will even argue to the point that even if it were staged, it will have to have an objective, and the objective was maybe for the Russian president to get rid of the guy, because power gets into Prigozhin's head and start to, because remember, Prigozhin doesn't have one company, or didn't have, if he's the one that is dead. They were in multiple companies. I mean, he became a household name inside Russia. So as far as wealth and as far as, so could it be that to Putin this could be potential threat down the road? Maybe not, whatever the case might be. In my opinion, the moment Prigozhin decided to take over the 2 military installations in Ukraine, they were under Russia, and threatened to march to Moscow, that's to me that's it. He signed his warrant, his death warrant. Why? It's because under the lenses of international optics, that looks bad for a Russian president.
I think you're right.
I think that's the way I look at it. So the Russians, the Russian president, for at this moment, we're just thinking outside the box here. So by second thing, by the way, before I forget, second thing that could also support this argument is that when the video of Prigozhin emerged, he's in Africa, maybe that was done without the consultation with the Kremlin. So Russia does things under radar. The last thing they want is to expose their presence. We all know they are in Africa, and that's this is why ECOWAS now is thinking twice. France is thinking twice. As a matter of fact, the whole problem in Niger, it's not about Niger anymore. It is the proxy war between Russia and NATO.
You're absolutely
That's what it's all about. So could it be that Prigozhin, when he shows on that video holding his weapons in the desert there in the Sahel, that just kind of Putin saying to himself, "Oh, this is gonna become trouble now. Maybe time to make a decision."
No, and you're absolutely right. And I think it's an interesting choice. So yes, Prigozhin did embarrass Putin sort of on the global stage. That's a bad call. No matter what, I think that's a straight up bad call, because he's not just gonna, if there's anything that Putin does, he doesn't bluff, for better or worse, right? I'm not defending him, and I'm certainly not defending him if he killed someone, right? Certainly not defending that. But embarrassing him and Russia on the global stage
during the Ukraine
conflict, that's a really rough thing to do. And he had to have known that what has happened or not, whether he is dead or not, that was just an ultimate, but he's been seen in and out of Russia since, right? So he was exiled, and then he was in Africa,
in Belarus,
and then he was back in Russia. So what are we looking at?
That's why, because you have to think of the Wagner Group as one of the tools for Russian foreign policy. I mean, we do the same. We have the same thing. So I mean, we have them all over. When we worked and when we were in Afghanistan and Iraq and Yemen and other parts in Africa, whatever. It's not the U.S. military per se. It's the special contractors. That's most, some countries, or majority of them do. For Putin, Wagner Group was like, one of the tools by which, that's how he was able to, Russian president was able to cement a Russian presence in Africa. Is through the Wagner Group.
Well, and that's the question, right? So if that was going well, because we all saw that Wagner was a good ally for Russia in terms of where they got to in Ukraine. So were they no longer useful? I mean,
which I won't see that, because Wagner will always be useful because of what the group is able to achieve on behalf of the Kremlin. Because remember, the group it's not like a loose dog per se. It was some sort of, the Russian president stayed behind, because this way we do the same. Almost government it's to what we call deniability.
Mhm.
So you don't get too
Yeah.
close to the. They were able to achieve few things. And this is where the concern, again, the way I see it, the concern in Africa was once they heard that Wagner is coming,
Mhm.
calculations have changed.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you hear anything about military invention now in
Nope,
Niger?
sure do
You
not.
don't.
Sure
That
do
is
not.
my point. Because again, that Niger came to represent the
Mhm.
proxy war between Russia and NATO.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why is NATO expanding in the Sahel region through Mauritania?
Right.
So now what is happening now is the statements by outside world from
Mhm.
the comedian President Zelensky. I did find the one. I had to translate it to
Mm.
from a foreign language. So what he said in Kiev, Ukrainian president, I always add comedian.
Well, that, I mean, it's accurate. He was.
Yeah, I've always done that.
Absolutely.
So if I met him, I say, hey,
Yeah.
hello, Mr. President comedian. So comedian Vladimir Zelensky on Thursday denied any involvement in Prigozhin's, and I put this in quote, alleged death. So now if
So
you learn,
we're not the only ones thinking that, huh?
that's the thing. If you learn, this is why I'm saying do not jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
The DNA is gonna whether confirmed or not. Yeah, they can manipulate the reports. We all know that's happening.
Right.
The one thing that I am certain of in the world of intelligence, if somebody disappears,
Mhm.
he or she can disappear.
Yeah.
We're not talking about growing facial hair, whatever. No.
Right.
We're talking about surgical.
Mhm.
You change your look altogether.
Yeah.
There is no way. Like I told you, it took us 25 years, a quarter century,
Wow.
to find that guy.
Yeah.
25 years. So you hear now from even our esteemed president,
who, by the way, there was a quote, I wish I had it, but it was something like Biden at one point told or said to the media that Prigozhin should watch what he was eating to make sure that he wasn't poisoned, more or less.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's an interesting.
Yeah, coming from
a president, but
he got a point in this to a degree, because usually this is why I said earlier, till you know which entity, hypothetically, if there was to be Russian operations, we don't know at this point.
Right.
I can't speculate. I'm just talking based on what I know as far as how things have worked in the past.
Yeah.
Depends on which entity involved, will tell you the manner by which. What am I referring to here? I'm referring to the guy who fled from used to be a KGB spy, and he sought asylum in England.
Yeah.
All these years, and FSB was waiting until they got to the guy. All they did was they dropped plutonium-234 in his drink, and he was done. Yeah, that was it. So that just and that was FSB.
Yeah,
wasn't the military intelligence, wasn't the because to me, it's like when you conduct this kind of ops, you want to leave the minimum traces.
Yeah.
Something like this.
It's a lot of traces.
It's still. This is why you kind of, for now, suffice it to say, just hold the judgment till more information comes out. And even when more information comes out, it's hard to tell at this point. That's exactly what happened, for example, with MH plane. Remember the one that went down in Indonesia, whatever?
Yeah.
They never knew.
Yeah.
It's kind of... it's in his case, at least one thing I'm convinced about is that the moment he crossed that line, it became clear to me, just a matter of time.
Right. A matter of time until he was very... because this wasn't just taken out, whether he is or isn't, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't just taken out. You brought this up just now, David. It was publicly. So
That's
number one, it was done in front of a bunch of people. We have videos of the plane going down because it was done in an area that was populated.
Yeah.
There are people everywhere.
Which usually, if you want to neutralize somebody, you don't do it.
You don't do it that publicly.
Yeah. And you will make sure as much as no traces are getting back to you. So
they wanted, whoever did this
yeah,
wanted people to know that it happened.
Yeah. It is also undeniably,
yeah,
again, we're just thinking outside the box here, undeniably, it is sending a strong message to whomever we'll have to think twice about,
about crossing Putin.
Putin. Yeah, that just, hey, it's their country. Who are we judge? I mean, more power to you.
I mean, I personally don't think killing people is appropriate.
If
but,
not, no, but at the same time, what do we have done?
Well,
we have
done,
let's we call it, I don't shy away. If I am to fight for something that I believe in, and you end up having to do that, I won't deny it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't deny it. But again, you can't be doing that just for the sake of it, for no justification.
Of course.
Now that I have a hard time with,
Agree.
I have rules for me, but again, I am not. But I see your point.
Yeah.
It just, well, he does it, but when we do it, it's kind of okay. Because remember, we dropped also drones in some civilian areas in Yemen. I was in Yemen, I was in Afghanistan, I was in Iraq, and there were some calls that shouldn't be made at all. Who agreed to that? I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't in that operating room inside the Pentagon. So,
well, you probably should have been. We would have had a much better outcome.
I was in one case, and I won't go further in this. I was in one case where some decision had to be made, and I said no. Because it's the wrong one, because whatever that decision was going to be made, that will be unjust.
Yeah.
Well, and I voiced my concern of it. And Washington backed down on that at that time. That was one incident I remember. It was because he wasn't right.
Yeah.
He wasn't right. I understand the war is horrible. I understand conflicts are horrible, whatever. But you still have that obligation of doing the right thing.
Yeah,
you can't just assume, some of our military, I didn't see it. If I were there, I would step in.
Yeah.
You don't sort of, enemy or not, the humans.
They're human.
Yeah, you can't, there are rules. This is why we have what we call the rule of engagements. But, ask Asians back in Vietnam, in Cambodia, even for us American soldiers who've been in those, they've been exposed to Agent Orange. What does it do?
Oh, absolutely. Hugely.
Kind of, we gotta be fair when we
And now there's lawsuits for it. I mean, so it's actually interesting that you bring that up, because there is always, when there's a war, there's always a campaign to dehumanize the side that whoever it is fighting. It's not just the US. Every country who goes into war, the only way you can justify going to war is if the other party isn't human. Right? If they're not human, and if they're enemies, then you can justify taking them out. But the reality is that, you go over there and you realize they're people.
Yeah. It's a war is horrible.
Yeah.
So that's all I can say about this.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course. Next thing we need to ask about is the next question.
Okay.
About the person who's going to be replacing Prigozhin, because it's already one in line here. His name is Andrei Truchev. Andrei Truchev. Actually, I have a picture of him. Let me share it with you guys here, so you'll see. Now, this guy has a military background. And he spent, I was aware of him back in the day when I was traveling to the Middle East. That's his name, right? This is Andrei Truchev.
There he is.
Right there. Yeah. He is now the new man's candidate to lead Wagner. So,
and interesting, look at the way that's phrased. Putin's new man.
It's because
to lead Wagner,
actually,
right?
Because he was appointed by Putin in this time around.
And that is a very interesting piece of information.
Yeah. Well, the reason being because now if he's appointed by Putin, he knows who to report to. Right. I think the problem with Prigozhin, in my opinion, he should have, if he had quarrels with the Department of Defense, whatever, go request a meeting with Putin, sit down,
right,
and express your opinions,
right.
But you don't do it in that manner of. Now this guy, Andrei is going to report to that. Just FYI, Andrei spent time in Syria. He's the one who defeated ISIS, by the way.
Oh wow, that's kind of a big
he's
deal.
No small. He looks gentle, whatever.
Yeah.
No. He's highly trained, and he knows what he's getting into, and there is a reason to why President Putin put him in charge of that. So, which means also have a different meaning. Also, that means now what a Russian president wants to have a close control
Right.
on Wagner.
Exactly.
That is the point.
Exactly. That's actually very interesting. And I wonder how, because Wagner is, they're non-military, they're private military, right? Which
That's
is
correct.
different than state military.
Except that those individuals are former military. Those
Yes.
are special ops.
Yeah.
We do the same. We
Right.
have
Absolutely.
we
do. Blackwater, Eric Prince.
Blackwater.
We
Eric
have.
Prince himself was a SEAL team.
Yeah.
So I was asked to join Blackwater.
Oh, really?
Back then. So.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
I'm
Thank you for being here.
I'm done with that world.
But
so the idea of majority of them are former retired Navy SEAL, former military, somebody who didn't finish up 20 and left. Because remember, the one thing I'll say it, there's nothing shame about it, is the training you get.
Yeah.
That training stays for life with you.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. It's this is not about doing aerobics or whatever. We're talking about skills that stays with you for life. We're talking about survival.
Yeah.
So you find yourself in a forest, you're not gonna panic,
right?
Because you know what's need to be done to survive, to get to safety, whatever that is. So that's why those individuals are highly trained. Wagner is no different. They are highly trained. They are, specialized in certain tactics, and this is why for us we don't train on certain tactics and all that, and we have the same.
So. Well, and I think it's interesting that you bring that up, because that's why they're different. That's why
correct.
They're different than regular military. First of all, they're not state military, so they have different rules than a country's military might have.
That's correct.
But they're also very highly trained.
They are.
And that's very different from an 18-year-old walking in who doesn't really know what he's doing, because wars are primarily fought by young men and young women now too. But wars are primarily fought by young people who have a little bit of training, but who don't really know what they're doing, because nobody at 18 knows what they're doing. Let's be clear about that.
That's for sure.
But this is a different type of trained individual entirely.
Yeah, and this is, again, just to go back to my point about why now you don't hear much about military intervention in Niger.
Yeah.
Because Wagner is already there.
Yeah.
Wagner in the area. I don't know where exactly. All I know is that they are in the area, close by.
Yeah.
This is why France is thinking twice, even ECOWAS itself thinking twice, because they know what it means. This is going to go outside the border of Niger, and regional countries, their population now are rising up against their governments for supporting any military intervention.
Yeah. Well, their military intervention, I think, would be a flat out loss. I think so too.
I read up an analysis about the 4 tactical elements of going into this.
Yeah.
None of them will work. None of them will work. Because the geography won't help, and it will be disastrous, and it will expand.
Yep.
It will drag in France. It will drag in the US.
Yeah.
We do have military base in Niger.
Yeah.
By the way.
That's.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, if I am not mistaken, it was a conversation back then about where to put the AFRICOM. We have Central Command.
Yeah.
We have the Pacific Command and so forth. Well, Africa, when the decision was made about African Command, it was one of those part of the world there. It was also part in Djibouti. The third option was Morocco.
That's interesting.
Morocco turned it down, and the final decision was made to have it in Germany. That's where AFRICOM is.
That's an interesting location for that.
Well, it's because Germany, we have over almost 40,000 troops in Germany.
Yeah.
Germany has no sovereignty.
Yeah.
I'll say it. Germany is a lost cause.
Well, I mean, after World War II, Germany was more or less obliterated, right?
Yeah. But
after World War I and after World War II.
We decided for it to be that way. That's why there's the slogan, the saying within NATO. Keep the Americans in, Russians out, and Germans down.
Yeah,
that was for a reason. That's why you're still seeing actually over almost 50,000 troops. So the decision was made to put the African Command in
Germany.
which is odd.
That's very, very
Yeah,
odd. Very odd. You know, and that brings up what we talk about, what you talk about all the time, where geopolitics doesn't happen in a vacuum. And most of the things that are going on, we don't know about them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So,
all right. Do you want to move on to our next topic?
Let's do that.
Okay. So the BRICS summit is now concluded very, very recently, but is now concluded. And a couple of things happened that are very important. The first of which is that we now have the next countries that are set to join BRICS.
BRICS.
Now, officially, according to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Iran will be added next year, with membership taking effect from January of 2024. So those are interesting countries. What I'm most interested in, actually, though, is Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have been formally invited to become members.
Wow.
Okay. So what does that mean for oil sovereignty? What does that mean for, especially, so, you know, we're looking at the BRICS countries more or less as an anti-Western bloc. They swear they're not, but let's look at what's happening. They're more or less talking about, we want more of an equal share of the power in the world, right?
You mean they want an equal say on what's going on the international level? Because it's been tilted towards the West.
It has been.
So who controls the international organizations?
Right. It's mostly the US. And so specifically Saudi Arabia and UAE, plus the countries that exist right now that have been added, those are three of the world's largest oil producers.
That's correct. So there is a reason for that. If you are to analyze it from both angles, geopolitically and from an energy perspective, that is the reason why the invitation extended to those, but the other ones will have to wait, I think, till next year. But there's the third element to that, is that both countries, mainly Saudi Arabia, it's going to add more to the new development bank.
Yes.
The new development bank is very important. This is why, as a matter of fact, I found it this morning, believe it or not, I had the...
What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking at the gold.
Oh, got it.
And the reason why, because I want to open up the link and share it with our viewers just to see. See right here. So, and again, I remember, guys, I do speak foreign languages, so I read the stuff in foreign languages and translate them for me to have an understanding. Here is what happened. Just as they announced that one, check this out. I'm sharing it.
Okay. There it is.
You see that?
Yep.
Gold at 2 weeks high. Why is that? It's because Saudis, they're going to put more money into the new development bank, but Saudis also have massive reserves of gold.
Yes. And we here at Fort Knox, don't we also hypothetically have a bunch of their gold?
We don't have them at Fort Knox. We have them in New York.
Oh,
I
that's
saw it with my own eyes.
In New York.
You know how much it was?
How much?
You want to know?
I do want to know.
$120 billion.
Wow.
I saw it with my own eyes. Like those bricks underground in New York
You mean
City.
our weekly donation to Ukraine?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So it is a good point you brought up about the Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates, when it comes down to gas, Saudi Arabia comes down to oil. But adding Iran and Algeria, you just see where this is going.
Jeez.
So, but it's still, despite all this, BRICS is not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Their conversation yesterday, you know what it was about? It was about pharmaceutical.
I also thought that was interesting.
Here is, to me, as an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
You got a major structural problems or challenges.
Yeah.
And you are dealing with pharmaceutical issue. That's, to me, your priorities are not straight here.
Yeah.
Second issue, you got a fundamental issue with India inside.
Yes.
You couldn't resolve that, and you are dealing with pharmaceutical matters.
Yeah.
The reason, because they want South Africa to become the hub for pharmaceutical.
Yep.
It used to be India. So, and this is where I see maybe BRICS really need to have a
Priority check.
priority check. Yes, because to me, at this stage where the world is headed, with the world, like the global balance of power is being reshaped.
Yeah.
And the BRICS is concerned about talking about pharmaceutical
and space and
I
AI.
get like, whoa,
Yeah.
who's advising BRICS?
Right.
You know, sort out the issue with India first. That's one.
Mhm.
Figure out, first of all, or second, the mechanism by which, under which you're going to allow countries to get in.
Right.
You can't just accept whomever.
Right.
I mean, I looked at the list who's in those countries.
Right.
You know, I have nothing against Bangladesh. I have nothing against,
Right.
you know, certain countries, but come on.
Yeah.
That's going to become almost, the way I see it, like the EU.
Right.
Having countries that cannot Cyprus, what does Cyprus provide?
Right. Just, I mean, more or less, just some pretty landscape.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Then the third major one is this currency thing.
Yes.
What they said, we will talk about it further.
Mhm.
Remember when we said last time we were talking, I said, I'll be watching to see what, and here it is.
Yeah.
So when the world was waiting to see or hear the announcements, they couldn't. Of course, I agree with the arguments. You can't just go and announce a new currency till you have the infrastructure for it. I know this 100%.
Agreed.
But at the same time, when you look at the priorities, why are you prioritizing?
That was my biggest question, right?
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. So pharmaceuticals was a big part of it. The UN Security Council. So there was a call for the UN Security Council to be revised, more or less. And I did see that that Xi and Modi did have a conversation on the side. Do we know what happened in that? I don't know, but they had a conversation in the side. Some people are reporting that it is to talk about the border dispute.
I've always said this.
We'll see.
I've always said,
till
that issue is resolved,
right?
BRICS is not going to be having the credibility it deserves on the global stage.
I think you're right.
It's to me just common sense that you look at it. You know, you can't tell others what you couldn't do yourself.
Right.
Hey guys, go and resolve your disputes when you yourself having a dispute with your neighbor or friend, whatever you want to call it, till they resolve that issue. It's the credibility what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
Yes, countries will want to get on that wagon before it's too late. It's because it's a fait accompli. The world order is moving as we speak from a unipolar to a multipolar. That just can't. India and China will have to, once for all. I mean, how can you explain that India now allowing a naval hub to be in India?
That's a great question. That's a great question. And you bring this up all the time, that India seems like it's playing both sides.
So
and you know, does it think that China and Russia and South Africa, do they think they don't notice that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But again, if they notice that, they need to have an honest and frank conversation. You put that on the agenda. So why not?
I agree.
See, to me, you can't be wishy-washy. You can, I mean, I don't blame one country, all of them. You know, you have the gut to say, we're going to move this organization forward, you know, to create a balance in the world, economically and geopolitically. But you couldn't have an honest conversation with the members, say, hey, let's figure out this right now before we move in on any other issue. That's to me what, and again, because why? It's because I bet you this, a week from today, and I'm going to check this. I'm going to check in certain Western capitals like Brussels, like Paris, like Warsaw, like some, anyway, where the decisions are made and so forth, you know. And I'm going to be reading about BRICS. And you know what they're going to be saying? Oh, it just hypes. And you know what?
It kind of looks like it.
Yeah, that's my point.
And I think you're absolutely right, because, you know, even yesterday on the second day, more or less, they talked about artificial intelligence. Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
good, but
I mean, the rest of the world's also talking about artificial intelligence.
Intelligence, yeah.
Nothing wild came out of that.
Yeah.
They talked about space cooperation. So they're going to put joint satellites up. I mean, okay, that's
Yeah.
kind of a big deal, but it's not. They were already probably doing that, and they just kind of slid that in as like,
Yeah.
oh, look, we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so and they're talking about pharmaceuticals, and you're really like, what? And they did talk about the new investment bank, or the new
Development
bank.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. In my opinion, the only big thing that came out of this is the announcement of who specifically is going to get accepted into BRICS, who's going to be joining BRICS. And the reality is that Saudi Arabia and UAE, and then these other countries,
Algeria, Ethiopia, and so forth.
That's
But again, till you deal with the structural,
right.
That's like a building. If the foundation is shaky, that's gonna collapse one day. That's the way I say, And again, I was very careful a few months ago when I was talking about BRICS, especially when it comes down to currency. I was always careful to say, let's wait. I'm gonna keep my eyes open when the summit gets here to see what they're gonna be.
Right.
And here it is. That's why I wasn't convinced 100% back then to say it's definitive and it's on the record there. I never said that it will be definitive.
Oh, for sure.
Because I at least the understanding that I have about the financial aspects is you need to have an infrastructure for it.
Right.
I know that China has some, I know that Russia has some, but that's not enough, because even now within the members themselves, they're saying, well, it will be good as long as also the single currency among the nations. In other words, the countries can use their own. Well, there might be a problem with that, because how can you take the yen versus the rupees in India?
No, it's
how
very,
can you
very
take
different.
the rubles versus, speaking of rubles, even the German foreign minister, who is, by the way, she really clueless about foreign affairs. I have nothing against women. I have great respect, but I call it out. I call it out when it is. You know what she said today? She said that Western sanctions have not damaged Russia.
Okay, that's interesting.
Duh.
Yeah.
You should have figured that out 3 months after they were issued. We are in almost going to be done with 2023.
Not only that, Russia's economy has grown by 1.5%. So
exactly,
just.
And she refrained from saying even the German economy is collapsing. So that's why am I bringing this up? Is the idea of you have to understand the structure, how things are first. You wanted to ensure that the structure is sound. And this is what BRICS is lacking, is missing. You can't, to me, as I said, I will be reading those analysis soon. I bet and I'm going to share with you. If I find something, I'm going to share with you. They're going to be saying, see, we told you, it's nothing but hypes.
Well, and I do think that it was a very strained, because there was so much conversation about the BRICS currency before this, right?
Yes.
So I'm interested to see if it's just that they can't get their stuff together, that they can't seem to come to consensus. They can't seem to get that together, or if the talk about a BRICS currency in itself is a manipulation. And they legitimately had no intention of really creating one. So those are the two options that I see. Either they can't get it together yet. I mean, they've been talking about it for 13, 14 years now. So they've been talking about it for a long time. But if you're paying attention to the global stage, you're seeing how many countries now, how even in the United States, we don't talk about it much, and you have to really dig for that information here. But there is the conversation of de-dollarization across the globe right now. So is it in their best interest to talk about the fact that they have an alternative and get everyone really excited? And will that help move people towards de-dollarization because they think it's going to happen? Do you see what I'm saying? Is that a manipulation, or can they just not get their stuff together?
Their act together.
Their act together to put it together. I know it's complicated. I know it's complex.
They do need to have an infrastructure.
Absolutely.
That is not an easy thing to put forward.
But they can also say, we're currently building the infrastructure for this, instead of saying nothing.
Because remember, for us, since Bretton Woods, that's how long it took.
Yeah,
It took
absolutely.
quite a while, of course, between the end of World War II and 1971.
Yeah.
It took all that time, but the decision was made at the beginning to pave the way for all that.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight.
It
That
is
what I'm
not.
saying.
Yes.
It just you will expect, in my opinion, for a summit like this to at least have the indication,
Right.
this is the path we're gonna embark on. Well, pharmaceutical is all good, but come on,
Yeah.
come on, you're gonna have to talk about if you want to compete on a global
Yeah.
scene. Otherwise, you're gonna be bringing countries that are, and I'm sorry, not sorry, I'm not sorry, I'll say it,
Mhm.
that are dead weight.
Yeah.
Straightforward. That's like when you have a military team.
Yeah.
When somebody's a dead weight, what do?
You cut them loose.
You cut them loose or
Yeah.
remove them, or that's about it. Same thing.
Yeah.
This is where I'm not a concern, but that's what I see paving the way when you have this massive amount of countries wants to join,
Yeah.
but you don't have an infrastructure in place, a policies or process in place
Right.
by which to decide what are the criteria and the requirements.
Right.
EU is finding out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why even the Euros is finding out. It's too late for them now too. As a matter of fact, there was even a conversation inside the European zone or the Eurozone that some countries wants to go back to their currency.
Well, because it makes smaller countries able to manage their economies better. And to me, I actually thought that was kind of crazy to have so many a single currency for so many varied economies. And when they are talking about the BRICS currency, when they do talk about that, they don't ever talk about using it inside their own countries. Which is an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, the euro, that was the intention, is to have the countries all use the euro and, you know, and have that be sort of a unanimously used currency. But that's not ever been brought up here when there is talk about this BRICS currency, whatever it is or isn't. But what seems to be clear in terms of whatever communication, which is not very much that we get about it, is that it is going to be used between the countries, but not inside the countries. But I wish, if that is true, if they are developing it, I wish they would have come out and said something about it.
Then there is another issue looming that I see coming. First of all, I want to say thank you to nobody. Thank you very much for your super sticker. You wrote the world teacher for all humanity, the Benjamin Cream.
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. Share international, explain world situation in a simple term, easy to find, seek truth, find understanding and hope. Thank you so much. Those are kind words. That's so kind of you. We truly appreciate you. Thank you so much for your super stickers. So
wait, we have one more.
Oh, sorry.
Joy Cho, thank you so much for your super sticker.
We appreciate it. So the other issue that I see coming is with the candidate now who's running for president. This can be a topic on its own.
Yeah.
Running for president in Argentina.
Oh, yeah, that can be a topic.
Yeah,
his name,
his name is Javier Milei. Milei, M-E-I-L-I.
Yeah.
Milei. So, you know what he's running on?
Oh, yeah, re-dollarizing. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
re-dollarizing.
So how that's going to settle well with BRICS wanting to incorporate Argentina?
Right. It depends if he wins or if he doesn't win.
Well, it looks like he's talking that is a foregone conclusion that he's winning.
Yeah.
I read his statements and I read the statement of his advisor, economic advisor. You know what his advisor said? Emilio, his advisor called Emilio. He's an economist also. And Javier himself, he has economic background. So his advisor said, oh, Javier, the first year he wins the election, we're going to implement this. That will be for also extend for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Which means what?
Which means
you got the nod from Washington.
Some hidden hands.
Which will work to because that's what we want.
Right.
Because what are we concerned about with Argentina? We're concerned about one element, actually two, I'm sorry, two elements. One has to do with currency.
Yep.
Brazil and Argentina wants to combine and have create a single currency called a SOR.
Yep.
The second element has to do with China and Argentina's BRI because it's a major.
Yep.
So Now, could this guy be Khafir? Could be the wild card that Washington is willing to support?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
But
What do you guys
yeah,
think?
but the way I see it is, if BRICS is talking, and this is what again,
Right.
BRICS will have to really think hard about. I have no doubt they are, those head of states or whatever you want to call them. They think rationally and all
Yeah.
that, but it's still, you are, all the world eyes are on you, and you are dealing with pharmaceutical.
Well,
I
so
find it very strange.
here's the other thing, right? So we talk about the US more or less being run by lobbyists, right? We have countless lobbyists per
Sure.
person in Congress, right? So the US isn't the only country that lobbyists exist in. Do you know what I mean? The United States and the US corporations, for example, are all over the world. We think that, that Boeing only does business with the US.
No.
Boeing
No.
the US just approved, I think it's $12 billion worth of Apache helicopters to Poland through Boeing.
Yeah.
So we look at a lot of these companies and we think, oh, well, the pharmaceutical industry is only here in the United States. No, it's not. And so, that's something we don't talk about with these countries, but to think that no other country is influenced by large corporations, I think is beyond naive. So I do see that some of these things that are coming out might be influenced by that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, lobbyists exist for even countries overseas. They have their own lobbyist groups, but the lobbyists here are not foreign agents.
Right.
That is it's according to our laws, how our laws work. If
our laws allow for that.
As long as you are registered.
Yeah.
Because if you are not, you'll be in a hot seat with the law. It's just how it works. Of course, there's a catch-22 with that.
Right.
But we do have, for example, lobbyists from Brazil, from Turkey, from Taiwan, believe it or not.
The Saudis have a very large lobby here.
Actually, I'm aware of one former member of Congress who became a lobbyist for the Saudis. The reason I'm looking for here, for when you mentioned about the $12 billion, the Congress has also just approved another, I think, $243 million to Taiwan for armaments for 2024.
Yeah. I mean, it's heating up. Pay attention to it. Yeah.
You know why 2024? Because that's when the elections in Taiwan.
Yeah.
I don't call them presidential because to me, Tsai is not a president.
Yeah.
That's how I see. I'm being pragmatic in my judgment. I have nothing against her. So the only thing I had to check about her is her calling herself a doctor.
Yeah. Which was not accurate.
Well, that doctorate was not conferred.
I
have a copy.
Yeah.
From the university in England.
Yeah.
I have a copy here in my record. But the copy, when you get a PhD, you have to have the name of the chairman of the committee.
Yeah.
There is no name there.
Interesting.
So you can have a PhD conferred without a committee.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But anyway, that's beside the point. But why is 2024? Is because the elections.
Yeah.
So I am sure people in Taiwan are watching what's going on, not just in Ukraine.
I hope so.
But what's just took place between the US, South Korea, and Japan, the Trilateral Alliance. I almost feel like calling it ATA. No. The Asian Association Alliance.
AAA.
Yeah, Asian, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Just agreed upon. So I'm going to do a live stream on it on the other channel. So if you guys want to join me tomorrow, not today, tomorrow I will be talking about this topic.
Yeah, that's very worthwhile.
South Korea, Japan, and the US making alliance. So.
There are two really big areas right now that seem to be hotbeds of more or less this type of conflict.
Yeah.
And it's Africa and it's Southeast Asia.
Oh, big time.
Very big time.
Yeah.
And so we're watching it heat up right now. And it's interesting because, there's starting to be whispers of the failed Ukraine counteroffensive, right? And so now there's starting to be rumbles of the narrative for the failure in Ukraine is starting to be spun up. And so I wonder what we're going to hear, because this has become a very unpopular conflict. It's become a very unpopular war.
Yeah.
And especially, here in the United States, people are, we have an election cycle. We're in an election cycle right now.
We're going to see this.
And so, it's very interesting. I was listening to, the Republicans had their debate yesterday.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I don't watch TV. So.
Well, yeah, I unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know.
I know what you mean.
So they had that yesterday, and it was interesting because one of the candidates was talking about more or less like, taking down China and India, and we have to tell China and India that they have to stop doing all this stuff. That when I think she was talking about polluting.
Oh, you're talking about Nikki Haley?
Yeah.
Oh, she's clueless.
Yeah,
she's clueless. And you know what she's calling for? We need to fight China. That's what she's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's because the donors.
Yeah. Well, the and it's a popular thing to say here. The problem is, the US is asking for more countries to buy our debt because our debt is out of control. Who do we think is buying most of that? And let's say that China decided that they wanted to dump our bonds.
They just did.
They did, yeah.
Actually, on 2 occasions. One of them was 430 billion.
Yeah.
And the recent one that I just read was about 11.3 billion.
Yeah.
And convert immediately into gold.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah. And so what we're seeing right now is for a candidate to come out and basically say, we're going to attack China. They do not but the American people also don't understand. China owns a lot of land here. China owns resources here. China owns a ton of US bonds, and the US is going out on the global stage and looking for more money.
Because we're living beyond our means.
Oh my God,
way
beyond.
Way, bringing me back to your point yesterday or the day before when you talked about BlackRock moving the money.
Right, moving a lot of their assets out of the United States, and so
they see something coming.
They do, but looking at the amount of debt the U.S. has and climbing debt, there is no plan to bring our debt down. And so it's easy for someone to say, "Oh, let's fight," right? But the problem with saying, "Oh, let's go fight," is it doesn't take into account the complexity of the situation that the United States is in right now.
And let alone that the whole fight is going to be done on credit, because most of that,
right?
It's the idea of, and you know what's the fundamental problem for that? Not just the president, but also the leadership in the Pentagon, that they are promoting individuals who are not qualified.
Right.
Because as a former military myself, and I don't claim to be spending 20 years in military. I didn't.
Yeah.
Actually, how I all ended up for me in the military, I got a phone call from the Pentagon. So without going into details, that's, my case was slightly different.
Yeah.
But even with that, you start to think back then versus how it is today. We have never been prepared for a real war because we only get engaged in conflicts. That's about it. Now we're finding out that in Ukraine, we can't fight the Russians because we are not prepared. We don't have.
And what a wild realization, David, because the amount of money and resources that have been sent over there, don't you think we would have won?
No. Even the equipments, the tanks that I read something about, the tanks used, those are the old version. We didn't create any. They still have, I think, some twin turbo engines in them.
Yeah.
Those can run at about almost 1,000 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, and here is the big problem with that.
Yeah.
Those kind of engines in a tank is surrounded by so many electrical, and when it gets so hot, a minor spark could.
Yeah.
Because those twin turbine engines are made for planes.
Yeah.
And they burn so much fuel.
Yeah.
Within 8 hours, you're going to have to refill it again.
Wow. Which is very expensive, by the way.
Whether the tank is moving or not.
Yeah.
8 hours. So that shows you, it's just we are outdated. And the morale for how, it's because we've never, when I say recently, I'm referring to the last almost 15, 20 years or so, around that time frame. After I left, I left in 2001, I think, or something like that. Even the training, you are not training for with passion per se. Because you have to, meet the requirements of you're accepting
Yeah.
weaker individuals and so forth. So
Well, I remember there was a video that was circulating about a Russian soldier who basically gave himself up to Ukraine, and it was this one guy, and he was surrounded by blasted earth, like scorched earth.
yeah.
And he had probably been there for months. And the reality of war is that it is that.
So
right?
just for those candidates that are running that car, we gotta
Mhm.
fight this, we gotta fight that. They have no clue about war. They've never been in one.
No.
And of course, their kids is not gonna go the war.
Right.
So they'll send younger people at 18, 20.
Right.
They have no clue about what are they fighting for to begin with.
Right.
You know, I have nothing against our military. I have a great respect, but at the same time, you gotta call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
Did you know that we have almost 44 4-star generals?
Wow.
Why?
That's a great question. Yeah.
After World War II, we had about 7,
Mhm.
including Nimitz himself. You know, they were limited.
Yeah.
But think about a 4-star general. When I was in the military, I was around the 3-star general and the entourage that goes with the guy. Now, think about it. 1,000 person per general.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Why do we need all that for?
No, that's a
And the
great
cost of it.
question.
And the problem with that, each general will have to push his agenda or her agenda.
Yeah.
You know, again, nothing against this, but you know, we lost sight into really how we fight because we have never been engaged in. After the Gulf War, that's it. We got involved in conflicts, and most of it, like you get landmines. That's how, you know, fighting people in sandals and AK-47.
Yeah.
And we couldn't defeat them in Afghanistan.
Oh, that's after 20 years. I can't imagine.
It tells you right there. So that's why I lost respect for those candidates, and there's nobody to vote for. There is no shame. There are no leaders and because our system is corrupted to the
Absolutely.
core.
And the thing is, you know, we're talking about fighting China and fighting India. The reality is, who got us into the mess with them? Who got us into the position that we're in with China, for example? It's the politicians that ran on the platform of let's fight China. China's the bad guy. Those politicians are the ones who got us into this.
And that's why there is no understanding for it's to me, it's gonna be just these debates and all that. It's nothing but hypes. No more noise.
Well, and it's interesting to watch our candidates run on platforms that they don't follow later when they're
in the office.
You know what? For every single American right now,
it
is our choice whether we choose somebody who we know is lying, whether we choose somebody who we know cannot fulfill on their promises. So for every American, pay attention to what they're saying versus what you know to be true. We cannot decouple from China right now. It's just not possible for either country.
And that topic we're gonna do on a Rumble because there's a lot to unpack on it. Detailed stuff that you know, our system is a unipolar system.
Yeah,
it just has 2 players, but it's one system, one party.
I agree. I agree completely.
It's all right.
There's one thing.
Final thank you. Go ahead.
There's one more thing that I want to bring up in terms of the BRICS summit, because one of the things that they talked about the most. So I'm going to share this tab, and that is the country's share of global GDP. So I'm going to share this tab with you guys, or share this article. It's from Statista. And it is
wow.
There it goes. Okay. So it is the rise of BRICS. So the G7 countries, which you can see them here. So the G7 countries are more or less the collective West. And then you see the BRICS countries here. So look at the change.
Wow.
In share of global GDP at purchasing power parity. So look at what it was in 1995. So the G7 had about 45%. And look at it right now. So right now in 2023, and so this actually started to flip in about 2020, I believe. So it 29.9% is now G7 and 32.1% is now the BRICS countries. And so we're looking at a very big change here. And they brought it up. I think it was Putin who brought this up, but it was brought up all during, because this is huge.
It is big.
And to me, especially in the United States, any candidate that isn't talking about this Any candidate that is not talking about reversing this, people should not be listening to. Because I don't think this is reversible, in my opinion. However, it is critically important for people to know that this is happening. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because even though we did not get anything that talked about a currency, this in itself is their sort of big claim to fame right now.
Wow.
Because this, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this, but no one is talking about this here in the United States.
No, that's why they pushing. They are not drawing attention to. I mean, how much coverage was it about BRICS? None.
It was hard to actually find anything.
I see somebody here writing in a foreign language. That's Arabic language. Thank you very much, White or Screen. You wrote Brexit Plus ستكون المستقبل للأسواق ناشئة, which translate to BRICS Plus will be the future for the developing markets. You're absolutely correct. And that's exactly to the point you just mentioned. So, our politicians, I don't trust them across the board.
Absolutely.
There's nobody there to trust and all that stuff. So, anyway, guys, we hope you find this very informative and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a safe weekend, okay? And remember, prepare yourself for the changing world order. Till next time. Bye-bye.